This exercise is the one I found best for processing anger, and it's the one I use most commonly when I'm working with people. I've worked with lots of people to help them process and get in touch with their anger so they can feel more in their power and set boundaries and all that juicy good stuff. So I'm going to go straight into the exercise, guide you through it, and then I'll answer some questions at the end that have to do with what might happen during it so you can know what to do if this happens or that happens and so on. So the first step is to get in touch with the situation or the person that's triggering the anger. Almost always our anger is connected to a situation. And so I'd like you to imagine that situation. Maybe there was a moment when someone said something to you. Maybe there was a moment when you realized something. You got an email that made you angry. Or, something happened in your life. Just imagine that moment or see that person saying that thing or whatever it is. This is so that, because when we bring it into the mind, the body responds and we can start to get in touch with that anger. The second step is to acknowledge it. As in just to acknowledge your emotion here. Acknowledge I'm angry at this person, at this situation. Just really simply, because we have a tendency to try to say, be very intellectual about it. Say, well, I shouldn't really feel angry because of this, and this, or I shouldn't because of these mitigating factors. I don't know. We try to work out how appropriate or reasonable our emotion is. Forget all of that and just be true to what's here in this moment, it doesn't matter whether it's nice or nasty, whether it's reasonable or not, whether it's justified or not. Just acknowledge, actually, I'm really angry. I'm irritated, or I'm resentful, I'm pissed off, I'm whatever it might be. Just acknowledge it to yourself and acknowledge that, hey, I'm allowed to have this emotion. It's okay. I'm allowed to have emotions. I'm a human being. And right now I have this emotion. And this is just the truth. We try to choose how we feel. Here we just want to be honest about how we feel, however it is. That's the second step, acknowledging how we feel. The third step is to locate the anger in the body. Do you feel it more in the chest? Maybe you feel sort of tension in the jaw and it feels like that's more like where the anger is. Maybe it's a burning in the belly. If you're not quite sure, just see if you can feel into what just feels a bit off. What doesn't feel quite right? Where do you not feel quite comfortable? And just get a rough sense of where it is. It might just be vaguely in the upper chest somewhere. It might be more in the head or the belly or the legs. So see if you can get it quite precisely. But if that's a bit tricky, just where does it not feel good? Where do you're just like, yeah. And you can just work with that. That's a good starting point. And as you work with it more and more, it'll become more granular. You'll get better and better at recognizing how your anger is coming to you. And it could be different ways. It could be a burning feeling, could be heat, could be tension, could be a heaviness. It's different for everybody at different times as well. So that's the third step. So you've invited in this anger, you've acknowledged your anger, you've noticed where it is. And actually, on that previous point, you want to really bring some curiosity to it. You're not trying to fix or change the anger. Just get curious about the sensations that are there. How is this anger? Like you've just been dropped into this body for the first time from an alien spaceship, and you're just wondering, okay, how does this feel? Here's where we now start to step into the anger bit by bit. So you want to let the anger start to express in your mind in really raw, simple ways. So maybe if you feel into that, you can feel it just wants to say fuck off, or like no, or I don't want to. Something simple. Let it start to express in your mind. Maybe it wants to yell and scream. Whatever's happening, let it start to unfurl and unfold its expression. Maybe it wants to say I hate you. There's a little trap here of getting too in the narrative around it. We can, I might ask people sometimes, what does this anger want to say? And they go, it wants to say, I know you did that for this and this reason, but I actually think I feel a little bit like, and there's sort of as if they're communicating with a person and trying to be very respectful and sort of hold back. Here we just want the truth of this part. Again, it doesn't have to doesn't have to add up, doesn't have to make sense. It can just be garbled nonsense. If that's the truth of what this part of you wants to express, then that's the truth, and that's what we want to let come forward. It's a practice of radical honesty. Just because it's in your head, it has no repercussions outside. It doesn't, whatever it's saying, it's not absolutely true. If it says I hate you to someone in your head, it doesn't mean you actually hate them. You might love them deep down. Think of this part of you like a little toddler who's just going, no, I hate you, to its parent. It doesn't really hate its parent. It loves its parent, but it's just having a moment and it's a cry for help and it just wants to say these things. And that's what we're doing. So that's the raw expression. At the same time, you can then start to let the movie of this anger unfold in your mind. So maybe this part of you wants to stamp. Maybe it wants to push. Let that happen in your mind. Let it play out. Maybe so you can almost imagine yourself maybe stamping and yelling, for example. Or you might imagine yourself pushing and saying, no, no. Or it might be you might imagine something quieter, just growling and tensing. Just feel into it. This is a skill you can develop, of feeling into this anger and feeling into how it wants to move and express. And as you're doing that, that activates the anger more and more in the body. What we're doing here, we're not trying to get rid of the anger. We're trying to experience it fully. And this is where the final step comes in. I want you to find something solid, like a wall or a door frame, or it could be you could push down on a desk as well, and press against it. Stand up and press your palms against the wall. So I'm just going to do it here for this demonstration. But I want you to imagine that you're pressing against a door or a wall or something. And then let that movie, let it express in your head. No, let you imagine yourself, pushing people away or stamping or punching. And then just massage that energy of that anger that's flowing through you at this point. Massage it into the wall. So you can feel it. There's like, no. And you're pressing into the wall. And keep your attention in your body so that you can feel it coming up. Maybe you feel it come up into the chest, into the arms, into the legs, because the legs are pressing into the ground. And this is what you want. This is how you're doing it. The movie and the sounds in your head are activating it, and you're pressing into something. Maybe you're pressing down on the desk. Maybe you press your hands into each other. That gives the energy somewhere to go. It helps activate it. You don't need to press with all your strength. You don't need to go crazy. It's just to activate. Like when you just imagine you're about to lift a heavy weight, just your body kind of tenses and activates. That's just all we need. That's sort of one round of the exercise. What you'll notice is that the anger tends to come in waves. And so it'll come up and you'll find it'll peak. There'll be a peak where you're pressing and then it'll start to soften. And you can just let it soften and then take a little break. And then that might be enough for you. You're like, okay, that was great. I feel better. I feel lighter. That's good. There's an integration step here. And the next step, once that peak has gone over and the anger is softened, just notice what feels lighter. Just take a moment to integrate by noticing, okay, I feel a bit softer, a little bit lighter. It's a little bit easier to breathe. And just keep your attention on whatever has shifted for a minute or so. Then you might find that more anger comes up, or you can invite in the situation again and you can just go through another round. So to summarize, think of the situation, think of the person you're angry at. Don't worry about real life and what might be appropriate or inappropriate to say. You just want the truth of this part of you that's angry. You acknowledge that, okay, I'm angry. You let it express in the mind, fuck you, no, ha, rrr. Let the body imagine moving your body in your mind. So you're imagining hitting a pillow, or you're imagining squeezing, shaking someone. That activates the body, brings the anger in. Then you just press it into something. Simple as that. And you try to be present with it as so you can really inhale, merge, feel all this anger fully. That's where the rubber meets the road. It's in really feeling the anger in your body. Like it's almost like you're inhaling it. What you can expect is these peaks and troughs. There might be a few waves. At some point, you might notice that a more vulnerable emotion breaks through, like you start feeling really helpless or sad. That's very normal. And at that point, you can stop feeling the anger, and it'll be really helpful just to give a bit of space to that sadness and just to have a little cry, or to feel that helplessness as best as you can. Because anger and vulnerability are two sides of the same coin. Our anger is to help protect us against our vulnerability. And so, when you feel one, you feel the other. Again, your mind will want to repress your anger, because you've been taught that your anger is bad and wrong and that you shouldn't feel it and allow it. And it can be helpful to just expect that. And like I said, a lot of the objections of your mind will be that, I can't say this to this person because they'll That's not reasonable. That's not very nice. And I'd encourage you just to find whatever feels comfortable for you. Just push your boundaries a little bit. Just try to express something that feels a little bit edgy. And you can get better and better as you do it more and more. Your body will realize it's safe to just think about expressing these things, for example. Because it's so important for that full expression, because we repress our emotions by not expressing ourselves fully. And so that's why it's so important to have this really raw, unfiltered, uncensored expression, even though if it feels a little bit edgy to us. So here are some FAQs of common things that can happen here, or just little niggles you can run into. The first one might be, I can't feel the anger. I can't feel my anger. I don't know. When I think of the person, I just feel tense, or I just don't feel anything at all. I think in this case, it's means that your nervous system is pretty defended against anger. You've maybe had some experiences early in life where your anger was shut down strongly by caregivers or teachers or peers, which is very common, and very understandable. And that pattern kept you really safe, or kept you as safe as you could. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. In that case, you want to help get to know that part of you. I've got videos on resistance and protector parts. You could type in those keywords into my channel and you can find out more about that. You want to befriend that part of you that is afraid of getting in touch with the anger. So when you try and invite in the anger, you might notice tension or numbness in the chest, for example. You might notice thoughts in your head. This is this protector part. And you could just ask it, hey, what are you afraid is going to happen if I feel my anger? What are you protecting me from? What do you need? What would you need to allow me to feel my anger? And you can, in that way, start to get to know it and welcome it in. Welcome in the tension or the numbness as best you can. Over time, as you connect to that part more and more and more, it can start to soften and you could have more access to your anger. Another question is like, I don't want to get angry at my mum or whoever it is. I don't want to get angry at person X, because the anger is connected to, say, your mother. And, we have very mixed relationships with our parents. We can have very contradictory feelings. And some people, it's like, I don't want to allow this anger at my mum. She's lovely. I love her. Why would I get angry at her? And here again, it's helpful to make a distinction between like the truth of this part of you and sort of your real life and your real life relationship with someone. So, in your real life relationship, I never suggest that you go and yell at your mum as a way of working through your anger. That's not appropriate. However, you're not really yelling at your mum. In your head, you're yelling at a mental map that you have of your mother that's out of date. It's an echo from the past of when you were small and you felt anger at your mum because, for whatever she may have done. It could be a tiny thing if she took away your toy. It could be that up to, more serious abuses, which happened all too frequently. And so there can be a lot of anger connected to any parental figure. But it's just about learning that it's really healthy to express the truth of this part of us, and it actually improves our relationship with the person because it clears us out of that anger that we hold towards them. And so that's no longer a filter when we're actually interacting with them. That's no longer coming out sideways all the time. So before I did this work with my mum, did my own work on myself with my relationship with my mum, I'd get really triggered. I'd get really frozen because there was an angry part. I wanted to get angry at her, but I would just shut down instead because I didn't feel like I could get angry at her. So around her, I would just be like this frozen teenager again. And then now I've cleared out quite a lot of it, and I'm softer with her. There's more space, and it's through allowing the full anger towards her that actually was able to soften. So my relationship is better. I can love her more openly now than I could before. Another question is, I'm angry at myself. What do I do here? Here, the tricky thing with being angry at yourself is you don't want to abuse yourself in your own mind. and kind of reinforce that pattern. Because it might be you want to say, oh, you're such an idiot, and you don't want to reinforce that necessarily. So I would just stick with just sounds and just the pure sense of frustration, for example, or anger or whatever it is. So if you want to express the anger in your mind, just express the sounds without the meaning of getting angry at yourself. And with the situation, don't imagine yourself. Imagine the situation is like, oh, well, I don't, we're often mad at ourselves because we behave in ways that kind of limit how we can live our lives. And just get angry at that we feel limited in some way. The pure frustration of that. And just make sound like, ha, ah, instead of abusing yourself in your mind, which isn't very nice. Another one is that as soon as you start to feel angry, you just notice yourself starting to cry or get sad. And I have a whole video on this called something like Why do I cry when I feel angry? I believe it is. That goes into more detail. But essentially, this is a protection. We've learned that anger is unsafe, and it feels safer to get relief by crying than it does to allow the anger. And so in this case, we have to notice that and just see if you can ask the tears to hold on for a second, and just see if you can hold on to the anger for a little bit more. It's like you know the tears are going to come. You just ask that part of you, just hold on 1 minute. It's really important that I feel my anger, and see if you can just use your will to actually just hold on to the anger for a few seconds more and just feel into it a little bit. And then you can let the tears come if they want to. And each time you practice that, you can hold on to the anger for a little bit more, because each time you feel the anger, it teaches your nervous system that it's safe to feel this anger. It's like a repetitive, it's just retraining your nervous system to go like, this emotion is okay. It's okay that it's here. Good. Oh, a final little tip, I think, that I'll add in is that safety is really important here. So, if the anger starts to feel overwhelming, just take a moment to ground yourself. Step away from the exercise, feel your feet on the ground, give yourself a hug, look at something pretty like a plant, look out the window to get present in something that isn't, just to notice your surroundings. All of these things bring a bit of safety to the body, which can be really helpful when doing this. All good. Right, there we are. I do work with people one-on-one, helping them to process their emotions and to feel better. So check out the links below, and I'll see you later.